Hi everybody. So in this video I'm going to be painting Bigfoot in a VR program called Vermilion, which is really cool because you can paint without making a mess. So this is the first one that I did, and the camera work isn't so good because I didn't realize the settings. There's better settings for later videos that'll be a lot better. So it's a little more shaky and zoomed in, but the other ones will be better. So anyway, we've all heard of Bigfoot. We know he lives in wooded areas and he's very big. He's reported to be 7 to 10 feet tall and weighing several hundred pounds. So the state the most sightings are in Washington state. There were 715 as of May 2023. So I thought that was cool. And the least sightings is in Delaware, and there was only 5 sightings as of September 2013. So not a lot of Bigfoot there. So I'm going to start off with a classic. Some of you may have heard this one before, but it's a really good one. So I want to start off with the story of Albert Osman. So Albert claimed to have been abducted by Sasquatch. Abducted by a Sasquatch in 1924. Oh, I'm sorry for mistakes because I'm just reading. I'm just reading as I go. So there's really not going to be any edits unless there's a crazy loud noise. So, anyway, Albert claimed to have been abducted by a Sasquatch in 1924. He did construction work and one day decided to take a vacation after spending a year on a construction job. He had his sights set on legendary lost gold mine at the head of Toba Inlet in British Columbia. So he boarded the Union steamship boat to Lund, BC. He hired an old Native American guide for the journey. This happened in 1924. So the Native American was very talkative and very nice. He told him tales of a white man who extracted gold from the elusive mine. This man was known for his heavy drinking, would disappear for days, only to return with bags of gold. So one day he ventured into the mine and didn't come back, and it was speculated that Sasquatch got him. So Albert was intrigued but skeptical about the Sasquatch story, and he questioned the man further about the hairy creatures. The native described them as people rather than animals, and he said they had bodies covered in hair, tracks 2 feet long, and heights exceeding 8 feet. So Albert dismissed this as an ancient fable. He didn't believe it. So when they reached the head of the inlet, that's the dogs. You might hear the dogs. So when they reached the head of the inlet, Albert set up camp, bidding farewell to the native who would return in 3 weeks. He was ready to explore, and he armed himself with a rifle and ventured into the mountains. Despite extensive searching, he found no trail except a hogback leading to the beach. Disappointed, he returned to camp, planning to explore a pass he spotted earlier. With a .30-30 Winchester rifle, homemade prospecting pick, and essential supplies, Albert embarked on his journey early the next day. He climbed steep terrain. He reached a flat spot at a rock bluff by the afternoon, and while digging for water, he marveled at the breathtaking view. So he went to bed. The next morning, Albert resumed his journey, facing challenging terrain before reaching a picturesque campsite. Strange occurrences began. His belongings were disturbed, with prunes and pancake flour mysteriously missing. Suspecting a porcupine, he stayed vigilant. So, several nights later, he prepared to catch the intruder, but to his surprise, he found himself lifted and carried by an unseen force. Half asleep and struggling to comprehend the situation, Albert realized he might be in the grasp of a Sasquatch, echoing the tales of the native. So this story didn't say. I thought that he was carried in his sleeping bag or a blanket or something, but when I found the story again, it didn't say. It just said he was picked up and carried. So I don't know if the Bigfoot just put him over his shoulder or if he wrapped him up in something. I thought that he had wrapped him up in something, but there's probably different versions of the story. So anyway, he was transported for hours, and he experienced discomfort and cramps before the Sasquatch family set him down and released his belongings. It was a family comprised of an old man, an old lady, and 2 young Sasquatches. Despite initial fear, Albert realized they were more curious than threatening. So they abducted him and brought him to their little camp, I guess, their little living space. So he was there for days, and he attempted to communicate with them through gestures, sharing his snuff box with the young Sasquatch. He discovered their peculiar interest in the substance. The old man's adverse reaction to consuming snuff led Albert to believe it could be a trick to escape. So one day, Albert gave the old man a box full of snuff, and that caused a really bad reaction, and the Bigfoot was having a hard time, and Albert was able to escape. He ran downhill to safety, eventually encountering loggers who rescued him. When he reflected on his unique encounter, Albert concluded that Sasquatches might still exist in the remote mountains of British Columbia. Well, that means they do exist, because if this happened to him, he must think they exist. So that was the story. That was the story of Albert Ostman. So this next one is very interesting. I found this while looking through stories. So Vladimir Putin had a Yeti sighting. So yeah, Yetis are, of course, Bigfoot that live in the cold areas. So they have longer hair, usually white, grayish, sometimes brownish. So apparently, in March 2016, Vladimir Putin and his security team declared that they had encountered 3 Russian Yetis during a visit to a remote village in Siberia. So claiming to have personally witnessed the creatures during a helicopter trip to a renowned Yeti sighting location, Putin and his entourage reported spotting an adult male Yeti, a female, and a smaller Yeti child about 150 meters away. I'm not sure how to say this name. Dmitry Ivanov? I think it's Dmitry Ivanov, a National Park wildlife expert, accompanying the group, detailed how the creatures initially observed them and then took substantial strides into the trees, reappearing briefly out of curiosity, before swiftly disappearing again. Covered in thick gray hair, the creatures left footprints in the freshly fallen snow, confirmed by Putin's security. So there were footprints that were released by the Kremlin press service. So there were supposed images of the footprints that were released by the Kremlin press service, but it was uncertain whether they were real. An accomplished photographer on the same trip captured them. So President Putin, known for wildlife conservation efforts, he's known for that? I didn't know he was known for wildlife conservation efforts. Anyway, he expressed awe at the sighting. Scientists from the Siberian branch of the Russian Academy of Science were tasked with investigating the discovery while emphasizing the protection of yetis in their natural habitat. Wow, that's the story. That's what I found about Putin and yetis. I don't know if that's true, but that's what it says. So next is the Bosick encounter. On the night of December 2nd, 1974, at 10:30 p.m., 68-year-old dairy farmer William Bosick, who owned a dairy farm near Frederick in Polk County, Wisconsin, encountered a perplexing phenomenon. Having attended a farmers' co-op meeting in Frederick, he was driving back to his rural house southeast of Frederick when, approximately a mile from his farm, he spotted an unusual object on the left side of the road. Driving cautiously due to patches of fog, Bosick observed an 8 to 10 foot tall motionless object that reflected his car's headlights. The object had a transparent sector resembling glass, forming a shell or bell shape on top, revealing an occupant inside with arms raised above its head. Despite referring to it as a man, the creature displayed non-human characteristics, including stiff hair on the sides of its head, a hairless face, large protruding eyes, and ears resembling those of a young calf. Dressed in something tight-fitting, possibly covered with brown fur, the creature's lower part was obscured by the fog. Overcome with fear, Bosick accelerated away, experiencing a strange dimming of his car's headlights and hearing a friction-like noise. Back home, attempts to observe the encounter location from his house were prevented by the fog. So this sounds like some kind of Bigfoot alien or something. The next morning, he returned to the site but found no traces of the encounter, except a flattened circular area in one version of the story. Initially, he kept the incident to himself for almost a month before contacting a newspaper, eventually attracting the attention of APRO investigators. He was known for his good reputation, expressed a willingness to undergo a lie detector test to validate his account, emphasizing his sincerity. Reflecting on the encounter, he regretted not showing friendliness and expressed a wish to meet the mysterious being again. That was an interesting possible Bigfoot alien. Some people think that Bigfoot is alien. I don't know. I would say he's not, but I don't even know anymore. There's so many encounters and strange stories. So anyway, the next story is from a man living in Houston, Texas. He doesn't give a name, but he's 68 years old, from Houston, and he recounts a bizarre encounter with Bigfoot in Buffalo Bayou back in 1979. So having recently moved to Houston, he found himself lost in the Buffalo Bayou Park area one morning after leaving his new girlfriend's place around 4:00 a.m. Desperate for directions to Allen Parkway, he pulled off the road hoping to find someone nearby. He spotted someone walking by the water to his left, and he called out to the person. As he approached, he noticed the person was unusually tall and big. Even in the limited light within 10 feet, he realized something was off. The person had long hair extending down to the chest, and the entire body was covered in hair. Feeling a sudden unease, he told the figure never mind, and hastily retreated back to his car. Glancing back, he saw the tall, hairy figure still staring at him. Speeding away, he tried to make sense of the encounter, not giving much thought to Bigfoot in a city like Houston. So the next day, sharing the strange incident with his brother, he learned about the other Bigfoot sightings in the Buffalo Bayou area. Interestingly, another local had a similar experience while gar fishing along the shore. Startled to find a 6-foot-tall dark brown Bigfoot behind him, the fisherman made a quick exit, leaving a caught gar on the ground. Glancing back, he saw the Bigfoot grab the fish and sprint downstream towards the trees, adding another puzzling chapter to the strange tales of the Buffalo Bayou. So that's interesting. So this next story happened on Memorial Day weekend in 2017. This person was hiking alone on the Tyrrell Pond Trail near Blue Mountain Lake in Hamilton County in the Adirondack Park in New York State. So approximately 1.5 to 2 miles down the trail, they reached a clearing that appeared to be from logging operations on a private road, facilitated by a park easement for the trail. So while pausing to take a drink from their backpack, they witnessed a large grayish silver Bigfoot emerge from a cluster of small trees, bush, and debris on a small rise located at their 1 o'clock position about 80 yards away. The creature took 3 to 4 strides before disappearing back into cover. The initial shock led the hiker to attempt rationalization. So, a few seconds later, the Bigfoot reappeared at the 2 o'clock position further up the slope, taking 5 to 6 strides before vanishing behind another mass of debris. The hiker, still in disbelief, contemplated waiting to see if the creature continued up the mountain. However, with no sign of its presence, they mustered the courage to explore the other side of the rise. Finding no movement or sound, the hiker grew uneasy, suspecting the creature might be hiding and watching. Deciding to head back due to being alone and unarmed, the hiker, though not feeling threatened, was visibly shaken. Approximately a quarter of a mile back down the trail, they heard a sequence of wood knocks, 5 or 6 in quick succession, originating from their 7 o'clock position. Rationalizing it as a woodpecker, the hiker remained vigilant, occasionally checking behind and proceeding cautiously. Continuing on the trail for another half a mile, the same wood knock sequence occurred, now closer at their 9 o'clock position. Despite the uncertainty, the hiker pressed on, and the rest of the hike out remained uneventful. So that's interesting, they actually saw it twice. So they're saying the observed Bigfoot appeared to be between 6.5 to 7.5 feet tall, roughly 2 times wider than an average person, silver gray hair with tan brownish features around the face and presumed ear areas. The creature exhibited a powerful build, slightly hunched forward posture, swinging arms close to the knees, and a head positioned low on broad shoulders. The creature's swift and seemingly effortless movements bore a resemblance to the iconic Patterson-Gimlin film. Yes, we all remember that one, the Patterson-Gimlin film. The painting's coming along okay. This was a difficult, kind of a hard one to do. But, I'll show the final result at the end. It came out okay. This next story happened in Sussex, England, by a lady named Carolyn. So she was 34 years old and walking her dog. She recounted her encounter with a hairy ape man on the Sussex Downs. She had her camera with her and was photographing her border collie Ash. She said she was able to capture a grainy image of the massive Bigfoot that ran past her in the woods. The creature, covered in thick black fur, stood upright like a man. Carolyn, a building society worker from Littlehampton, speculated it could be Bigfoot, emphasizing the sheer size and resemblance to other reported sightings. The estate, known for big cat sightings, has sparked speculation and reports of various cryptids over the years. Yes, I've heard of the big cats around in England. It's pretty cool that there's Bigfoot too. Bigfoot sightings there. So this was an account passed down through relatives and often kept private. It revolves around Native Americans and their encounter with a Sasquatch known as the Scanticum. Born of Sasquatch lineage and believed to be more human than average. During the 60s, rumors circulated about a Jesuit taking a non-human entity resembling a freak. That's what it says. It says freak. And keeping it in the church basement. The creature, akin to a Sasquatch-human hybrid, grew increasingly bold, breaking into houses and terrorizing a specific family. One night, the father was violently yanked off the porch by an unseen force, leaving the family traumatized. The men of the community formed a recovery mission and discovered the hairy man, a Sasquatch, whom they killed with deep regret and guilt, emphasizing the human-like nature of these beings. So I guess they had to kill him, or thought they had to kill him, and felt really bad about it. The incident remained shrouded in secrecy, reflecting the tight-lipped nature of the indigenous community regarding such encounters. So they don't talk about that much. That's very interesting. They had a human Sasquatch hybrid, and he was in a church. He was being kept in a church basement, and then would get out and harass people. I've never heard of that before. So this is a story that somebody who calls himself Jay is telling about when they were younger, and they said that they saw a juvenile Bigfoot. So they were left by their mom at the Green River in Kentucky while on a fishing and camping trip with their brothers and their mom, I guess. Despite being warned about the tree line housing homeless people, Jay ventured in in search of bait, only to stumble upon an inexplicable creature. So, Jay's head was down, searching for rocks, when they encountered a human-like feet with wood-like toenails. As they looked up, a creature with a mixture of hair and bare skin emerged, standing less than 10 feet away. The creature's eyes held galaxies of colors: brown, green, reddish and blackish. Startled, both Jay and the creature seemed to accidentally run into each other. When the creature stepped back into sunlight, its fur became nearly invisible. Struck with fear, Jay, initially mistaking it for a homeless man, couldn't comprehend the experience. So his fur looked invisible. That's interesting. Later, obsessed with Bigfoot, Jay shared their story. Haunted by the memory, the creature seemingly cloaked itself like the predator, blending in with the sunlight reflecting off its fur. Jay expressed concern about potential skepticism and feared worse outcomes when sharing their story. The encounter, once thought to be a homeless person, now resonates as a significant encounter with a mysterious being. So that sounds a little bit like the Glimmer Man. I've heard other stories where the Glimmer Man looks big, like maybe a Bigfoot in shape and size. Other times it just looks like a regular person. But that's an interesting one. The Glimmer Man Bigfoot. If Bigfoot is able to cloak itself like that, it would be very hard to find Bigfoot. So anyway, the next story is from Williamsport, Pennsylvania. So this next one happened in Williamsport, Pennsylvania in the early 1970s. Sarah and her boyfriend Chip embarked on a mountain ridge trip in north-central Pennsylvania. A seemingly innocent evening turned into a terrifying encounter. Despite intending to visit Skyline Road, they ended up on a neighboring mountain with no other cars in sight. Alone and surrounded by the beauty of the valley, they parked the car to enjoy the view. Suddenly, an intense urge prompted Sarah to lock all the doors. Despite Chip's skepticism, she secured the car as they immersed themselves in the night sky. A powerful pull and rocking motion startled them. A large humanoid creature covered in hair was at Sarah's door. Pulling the handle, the creature's strength caused the car to rock intensely. Fortunately, the locked door prevented its entry. Chip swiftly started the car, prompting the creature to move swiftly down the mountain, avoiding the car's headlights. It vanished into the densely wooded area. Sarah described the creature as Bigfoot-like, massive, with no defined neck, covered in hair, and exhibiting a violent intent. After the incident, Sarah contemplated reporting it to the police, but Chip believed they wouldn't be believed. Sarah considered it to be a miraculous escape, with a guardian angel possibly intervening to secure the locked door. Despite skepticism about Bigfoot, the encounter left Sarah convinced of its existence. Years later, online research revealed Pennsylvania as a high-incidence area for such sightings, affirming the reality of their frightening encounter. Okay, this next one is from a retired 24-year veteran from the Canadian Forces, and also a scientist. He encountered a perplexing series of events in May 2018 in a Manitoba town just south of Winnipeg. Completely sober and drug-free, the narrator noticed a massive figure on their back deck, covered in black fur and standing approximately 8.5 feet tall. Fearing for safety, he armed himself with a knife, bat, and revolver, remaining vigilant through the night. The strange occurrences continued the following evening at 3 a.m., when a young female about 7.5 feet tall appeared on the back deck, possessing the body of a gymnast and an attractive human face. So she swiftly leaped away with remarkable speed and agility. The next day revealed yet another encounter, this time with a massive white-haired being standing over 10 feet tall. The creature moved across the backyard with an eerie ghost-like stride, leaving the narrator disturbed by the surreal events. Yeah, I bet that's terrifying. Speculating that the beings could be a family navigating through the area using water, the narrator explored the nearby river trails. The discovery of spray-painted monkey trails on the entrance sign, along with signs of the creatures passing through, heightened the mysterious nature of the encounters. Among the findings were unusual structures resembling hunting blinds made from twisted and torn trees. So this last story was experienced by a man and his family. It doesn't say where this happened. So he and his family experienced unsettling phenomenon around their property. Arriving home around 11 p.m. one night, they heard disturbing noises, including loud knocking sounds and distressing screams, resembling an animal in great pain. The man's son, waiting for the school bus one morning, reported hearing those alarming screams. Tensions escalated when, during an evening on the back deck with his 3 pit bull terriers, he sensed an unknown presence. The usually composed dogs, upon detecting the threat, stood still and silent, then hastily retreated indoors, leaving the man puzzled. As he lingered, a loud snap echoed, akin to a small tree breaking in half. Initially skeptical and rational, this man was a lifelong hunter, familiar with the local wildlife. He knew the sounds of the location. However, his skepticism wavered when he encountered something unexplainable. Returning home around 11 p.m., as his headlights swept across the tree line bordering his driveway, he was startled by a pair of wide-set greenish, shining eyes. The anomaly stood at least 8 feet tall, bipedal, humanoid, with a reddish-brown body. Swiftly, he parked his car and sought refuge inside, shaken by the encounter. So that's it. That's all the stories, and this is how the painting came out. Looks okay. Thank you guys for watching, and there will be more videos in the future with better camera work, since I figured out how to use the cameras. I'm probably gonna put Mothman up next, and tell encounters about Mothman. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.